The most frustrating thing about Instagram right now isn't just the low reach thing, it's seeing accounts with worse content than yours blow up overnight while you're still stuck at 400 views. Like this creator, their content was actually pretty great, but they just couldn't break past the 500 views for months, actually. Meanwhile, very similar accounts in their niche were hitting 100,000 views plus, actually, with very basic and sort of boring content. Here's what's interesting though. After analyzing data from, probably 1,000 creator accounts, we discovered something kind of unexpected. The algorithm isn't random at all. In fact, this whole thing follows a very specific pattern. Actually, less than 2% of creators who think they're shadow banned are actually shadow banned. Once we understood this pattern, we helped that same creator go from 500 views, just ceiling capped, to basically consistently hitting 50,000 views plus, actually within weeks. And they actually almost didn't change a thing in their whole content style. In this video, I'll break down exactly what makes the algorithm push certain accounts while ignoring others, including the 60-day framework that helped one of our clients, actually multiple of our clients, go from basically 0 to 800,000 followers after being shadow banned for months. Yeah, this isn't about posting more reels or writing better hooks. Obviously, it's very important, these things, but not at this time. It's actually about something much more fundamental that 98% of creators are straight up missing in their strategy. Now, most people will tell you that reach is all about posting more content, using trending audio, some people still say that, or hashtags. Sure, some of these things actually matter. Some of these things are important, not hashtags, not really trending audio. But what we discovered after working with thousands of people and creators is something much more fundamental. The Instagram algorithm has evolved to basically categorize creators into different specific trust levels, trust scores, right? And we talked about this before. Basically, if you're stuck in the wrong level, especially the lowest one, nothing else matters. Doesn't matter what content you create, it just does not matter. Your reach will stay capped no matter what you do. And the first level you actually need to reach without even thinking about some algorithmic penalty is basically whether you're classified as a creator versus a regular user. We've talked about this briefly in the past. This whole classification only happens if you post at least 10 times a month. Ideally more if you really are in the growth phase and you're trying to get this thing to grow big and fast. Then you have to create content that has the ability to reach, engage a cold audience in a specific niche. So yes, in that sense, the content is still about hooks and stuff like this, but also you need to create content that has certain quality standards, both in terms of the whole script, the hooks, again, well, the lighting, the picture, the audio quality, and all of this together, because there's just so much content posted daily that the algorithm needs a way to make sure that your content is worthy of getting featured at all, because competition is rising a lot. Now, if you can't hit these things that we just talked about, these sort of basic things, don't even continue with this video. Watch my other videos first. More important. With that being said, let's talk about how you can actually identify whether you're hit by an actual reach, shadow ban drop caused by the algorithm or your previous actions, or if it's mostly down to your content, right? So I'm going to help you figure that out, which direction you need to go off. And based off of that, you'll actually know what to focus on in the next, let's say, 30, 40 days. This was from one of our clients' accounts, right? Great content, pretty solid hooks, posting consistently, but like I said, stuck between 200 and 500 views per reel. The problem was not their content, it was actually their algorithmic trust score, right? Which means the whole creator categorization, but also other factors, like they were at some point participating in comment and engagement groups, basically where people just come and say, well, I like you, you like me, you'll show me yours, I'll show you mine, basically confusing the algorithm. They also worked with an agency that organically did some magic, and magically followers appeared out of thin air overnight without even thinking about the content strategy at all. AKA they bought them really good looking fake followers. Yes, that's a thing. That's a major issue in the whole industry. Maybe we should make a video about this. That being said, here are the 3 major signs that you're stuck in one of these low trust score brackets that just have the algorithm keep you sort of low with the ceiling on top. Now take a look at this, right? If you look at these stats, notice how none of their reels went above 500 to 600 views, no matter how good the watch time or engagement was, because sometimes it was kind of good, but there was just this thing kind of blocking them from kind of breaking out. That's not the random thing, what you might think. If this happens a lot, it's basically one of these, what I call a trust ceiling. So first of all, what I want you to do is go through your content right now and try to find these hidden ceilings. Try to see if you spot a pattern, right? Usually that's the thing though, it's not a hard ceiling where it's like 500 views and not more. It's basically like more like a range between 400, 500 views, for example, 500, 600, you got the idea. A good pattern, on the other hand, that usually indicates your account is sort of healthy is if you have the one or the other outlier reel. If it sort of seems like you have a ceiling, but there's a few that really break out or that break out a little bit. For example, 2,000 views versus 500 views every once in a while, or a 10,000 view outlier, stuff like this. Or generally, if your views span a range basically of up and downs and are not just roughly the same no matter what. Number 2, non-follower reach is practically 0. Now, when you're in a low trust bracket or just not categorized as a creator yet, Instagram stops basically testing your content with new audiences completely, because they're like, well, what is there to win for us? There's so many other creators out there, so we're not even gonna try. So the next thing that you need to do is look at your non-follower graphs and try to spot any patterns there. Is it consistently low? Does it change over time or not? Usually with healthy accounts, we see that non-follower reach starts creeping within the first week of posting. So it's not instantly, obviously, but within the first week of posting, it should kind of even itself out to around 50-60% if everything is okay. Obviously not with all videos, but just roughly. So similar to before, try to spot variations, particularly in the non-follower bracket. Variations being a good thing in that case. Number 3, your good posts perform the same as your bad ones. Now look at these stats from these 2 reels. One took 5 hours to make, one took 15 minutes, literally, probably even less. Same exact views. Because at this level, content quality doesn't even matter. Doesn't mean that you should stop putting in effort though. Important, very important, remember that for later. There's actually what I call the PO test, the piss off test. Wouldn't recommend it, but basically you post a picture or you post a reel or something that has not a lot to do with your usual content. So for example, post a random holiday picture or a reel, something that's just a way, not really targeting your audience. The actual thing is, it's there to see if your reach is still going to be roughly the same. Because if it is, with even bad content, you know there's something wrong with your account, and you have a problem, my friend. First things first, if your stats look like the ones that we just talked about, you got some work to do. If they don't look exactly like that, your content is mostly not there yet. So if there's variations and if there's still some breakout videos every here and there, and if things look generally good, you still need to work on your fundamentals first and the content itself. Honestly, that's true for 90% of creators that come to us who are like, well, the algorithm hates us, probably even 95%. With that being said though, there are still 5 to 10% of creators that have issues with the algorithm. So let me show you the top 3 reach killers that are totally in your own responsibility and things that you should fix first. And then I'll show you the actual process that we use for people to kind of reset the algorithm if you're really hit by a algorithmic penalty drop. Now, we've already kind of talked about the first one, but it's basically if you're posting inconsistently. Even worse, if you stop posting for a while, and that's one thing the algorithm really hates. For example, if you stop posting for 3 to 4 weeks, maybe even more, and then you come back, basically you're gonna notice a big reach drop. Happens daily among people that we talk to, and this is actually the algorithm taking away your active creator status. And yeah, that actually can take some time to get back, this whole creator flag. So if you've had a break, don't feel bad. It's not gonna ruin your account for the long term, but expect it to take a while to kind of get back into the whole groove, and it can take weeks, to be honest, and don't expect it to be days, honestly. Now the second one, and that's a major one, which hits especially established creators or more seasoned creators that have been doing this for a while. By for a while, I mean 6 months plus, because these are the times that we're in, is basically that your content has become outdated, right? Can just be a little bit outdated, because the problem is the world's moving so fast right now, the content game's moving so fast right now that you're always gonna have to be on top of the game, on top of your industry, your niche, and also platform similarities, right? So let's say you got your fame or you know, maximum reach, let's say 6 months ago or 2 years ago, even worse, and you think things still work exactly the same like they did before, then you're gonna try to hit that high again and again, because that's what you did when things worked. But what you're actually just doing is you're just replicating outdated content, basically pushing you further away from your actual goal, which is kind of bad, very bad, and which is why it's super important to not stop using basically the platform, or Instagram in that case, as a consumer. You know, actually looking what's going on, what are the changes right now, constantly doing research, understanding what works, what's changed, what's happening in your niche, but also outside your niche, and seeing what people like and what basically the range of content that's out there. Very, very important for 2025 and beyond, actually, way more than this whole thing used to be. You need to understand what's really happening in your platform. The third thing is what usually is the catalyst of a lot of frustration and basically the reason why reach is down for a lot of people, and I call call it the downward spiral of doom, which means if you take a break or you're just having a reach drop because of, for example, the Super Bowl happened and people in your audience were just watching the Super Bowl and just get Super Bowl content in their feeds because that's just what's interesting right now globally, for example. And because of that, because you see, well, I just get less reach even though I put in a lot of effort, you get frustrated, and instead of being like, okay, whatever, I'm a creator, I see it long term, as you should, you're like, well, if I don't even get 2,000 views anymore instead of 2,500, why am I even putting that much effort in it? And your quality slowly starts to decline because you're like, well, let me just put in a little less effort in it because I don't get the views anyway anymore. And things just start to become slightly less good, basically. And the downward spiral slowly starts doing its thing, resulting in less reach, resulting in less effort, resulting in less views, until your account is actually dead. Horrible, very sad. I've seen this happen so many times. Actually makes me still sad at night sometimes crying about this. Now, instead, you need to take a look at your content and your reach basically from a zoomed out perspective over longer periods of time. Don't just look at the past 30 days or the past 2 reels. First of all, it doesn't matter. For example, here on YouTube, right? I once had a period of over more than a year where each and every one of my uploads were either 9 or 10 of 10. Basically the worst videos I've done in terms of views consistently for a full year. You know, that kind of takes a toll on you mentally. At some point I was like, well, I'm just used to it, and now I'm riding the wave and I don't even know what's going on anymore, which is kind of good for the mental health, but also good for views, seems like. But basically, in the grand scheme of things, even though these views were kind of bad for me, if I zoomed out looking at this whole thing, it was actually still pretty good. I was still growing and my business was still growing. So always need to take a look at the whole perspective thing. And just don't get discouraged. That's the most important thing I want to say. You know, think about it. A year from now, you'll be over it. You'll get over it. So let me just say this again. 90% of reach drops will get solved with doing what I just said. All these things that we just talked about. For the other 10%, I actually have what I call the account reset protocol. So let me show you this exact 60 to 90 day reset protocol that we use with our clients to break through these reach ceilings in a systematic way. If after these 90 days, you don't see a clear trajectory, either your non-follower reach going up or some videos breaking out, stuff like this. If you don't see that, you most likely need to restart, delete your account and start fresh. There's just something wrong with your account, but let's not even talk about this. Again, this whole restart thing is in less than 2% of the cases, honestly. Now, for the next 60 to 90 days, every single post needs to hit that quality and quantity threshold that we talked about. Now, when we talk about quality, I'm not talking about the perfect lighting all the time and the production quality itself, even though it does help. I actually mean you need to focus on creating content that actually delivers value in a way that stands out from the rest of the crowd. The second one is actually what we call the consistency matrix. So first of all, quality escalation. So for this next 60 to 90 days, every post that you make needs to be your absolute best work. No exceptions. You need to promise that. This is why you kind of need to, and we're gonna get into that. You need to post minimum for, let's say, 3 times a week or stuff like this, but you need to kind of keep up with that. You need to write it down and adhere to your own schedule 3 times, 4 times a week. And these posts need to be really your absolute best work. This whole thing though isn't about perfection. You know, done is still way better than perfect, but it is about consistently hitting quality thresholds that signal just valuable content to the algorithm while also signaling in for people, because if it's valuable content, people will interact with you as well. So both in terms of actual quality, but most importantly, the content itself, your hooks, your topics, your ideas, actually, that's what it all comes down to. Now, the second thing is the whole consistency part. Like I said, you want to create a minimum of 3 to 4 posts a week. Ideally, you don't take breaks longer than 48 hours. Obviously, you have the stories for that. You need to have some clear content pillar strategy that are defined that not just help the algorithm figure it out and figure out your target audience, but also help returning viewers come back and potentially binge your content. Another important thing is to use the whole trial reels protocol that we have. I have a video, probably one of the last videos that we made, that's all about this whole trial reels protocol. So use that, really do that, go through this whole thing for 30, 60, 90 days. And the third thing that's actually also equally as important is to monitor specific metrics. So you want to take a look at your non-follower reach percentage over the course of, let's say, a week. What's happening there? Is your non-follower reach consistently staying low, or is it slowly creeping up to be 50%, maybe sometimes even 75, 80% for some people. Then you also want to kind of measure the first 24 hours in terms of your engagement rates, how many people save your videos, because saving has become sort of like the new like. But also, and that's really, really important, you need to monitor your watch time patterns as well as your 3-second view patterns. Because if that's consistently bad, you again know, well, content just sucks. Now, after some time, first of all, you're going to see some patterns at some point, right? Either it is that nothing really worked so far, non-follower reach is slow, the stats are kind of still okay, the 3-second views, the watch time patterns, people still save it, but you just can't get above a certain threshold. Or you'll see that you'll have some breakout videos and you'll see a slow, gradual increase of non-follower reach. Sometimes you're going to see some viral videos. That's actually usually what happens. So there's all the range of what you can do. Important thing is you need to do that. And in my creator mentorship, we actually we're going to start a very special thing pretty soon, which is a 60 to 90 day content challenge that we actually build out for our clients for 60, 90 days to consistently hit that. We've done it with some clients and most of them blew up. Now, if you actually want to know where you stand in terms of the algorithm, for example, in my creator mentorship, we actually do a whole complete algorithm health check when you come in. In some cases, actually, we got you through this exact process. Sometimes a little bit different based off of your on your backstory, and we actually make sure that you create a consistent content strategy that builds your authority in your niche, with our basically data-driven frameworks. Now, here's something interesting we've noticed across the board though, and it's pretty important. Even after fixing their reach using this framework, many creators still run into a problem. They start to get more views, which is kind of good, but then they struggle to maintain that whole momentum. And this is even worse, especially for the ego. And it actually all comes down to this one thing that nobody's talking about: content decay. And if you actually want to know exactly how to create content that consistently breaks out even after you fix your reach, right, brings you into another issue, I actually made a way more detailed video about this whole thing, breaking down our actual content creation framework, or at least one of them. And it's the same one that we use with, obviously our clients to generate unlimited viral ideas for them and with them.